All right, guys. We're gonna be going over to the live camera stream. All right, guys. How you guys doing today? This is Devil's Advocate, aka Dion McNeil, aka the greatest journalist that you never heard of, guys. We're gonna be having a full show today. Now today, guys, we're gonna be going over several articles from Newsmax, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, Huffington Post, and also some articles found on Newsbreak, guys. If you want to join me in my Discord, the links are in the chat. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description. Guys, I run this show every day from 1 p.m. Pacific time or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for about 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 1 hour, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes only 30 minutes. But the show runs depending on what you guys show me. So if you guys show me a big crowd, you have this show running as long as I can actually run it. With that being said, guys, if you want to call in to give me your opinion about a news story or just want to tell me about how your day went or whatever's grinding your gears, the number to call is 253-203-6784. Again, the number is going to be 253-203-6784, and the number is actually on the screen for you. Mind you, guys, no unknown numbers, for one. And number two, if you act silly, I got to give you the boot because guess what? It is my show at the end of the day. Now, but at the same time, though, I mean, there's not a whole lot I'm going to boot you for, you know? I mean, unless you're just being absolutely belligerent. Anyways, guys, we're going to get right into the news stories because, again, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time at all. So, first news story we're going to look at is going to be Newsmax, again, because, again, a lot of people in the MAGA crowd, they love to complain about the, you know, can you see my comments? Yes, I can. Slappy, I can see your comments, sir. I can most certainly see them. Let me make sure everything is going on pretty much well on the stream here. Make sure, yeah, Slappy, I can see your comments. Let me make sure everything is good on your end. All right, you're fine. All right, so right now we're gonna go straight into the news stories, guys. Straight into the news stories, because again, I want to give you straight, raw, honest news, guys. Again, I want to give you several different news sources, not just from the left, not just from the right, but also from every single source. So we're going to go over to the last thing, guys. All right. We're over at newsmax.com right now, guys. And I'm going to drop the link into the chat so you guys can follow along. You don't have to just take my word for it. So newsmax.com is going to be in the chat, guys. That way you can follow along. You can tell me exactly what you're thinking about, what's going on in the thing. So Newsmax. Link to that's going to be in the chat. All right. So let's go ahead and go over the article, okay? All right. So first article we're going to be looking at is the funny thing about what I think about Mitch McConnell, right? So Mitch McConnell, he's basically telling MAGA, like right now, and basically telling the Republicans to not object when Congress attempts to ratify the vote for president. So basically what he's saying is back down. That's what Mitch McConnell is saying right now. And I told people this was going to happen. I told people this was going to be the likely conclusion because Mitch McConnell is not going to risk, you know, things going south or awry for the party. Now, at the end of the day, now that Trump has lost, listen, the way that Mitch McConnell is looking at it, right? The way he's looking at it is he wants to get back to, you know, being a rhino. He wants the party to get away from MAGA. You know, MAGA doesn't understand this, but you don't have a whole lot of allies within the Republican Party. All right, you just don't have that. All right, you think that you gonna do, but you don't. All right, so McConnell urged GOP senators not to object when Congress ratifies presidential votes. All right, so this is Mitch McConnell right there. This is written on Tuesday, December 15th, which is today. Trying to see who wrote it. It doesn't really say. Well, but anyways, let's get into the article. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell and his top deputies pressed other Senate Republicans on Tuesday not to join in with any House Republicans who may object to the presidential election results when Congress meets on January 6th to ratify the decision. A source familiar with the remark said. Doesn't that sound like CNN? See, I told you Newsmax is going to eventually begin to sound like CNN. Right. It's very, very strange, right? That they are talking about this. A source said. Who is the source? You know, it's sounding more and more like the anonymous sources of CNN, right? I told you, guys, you have to try to, you know, see past, you know, political bias to basically see that Newsmax is no different than CNN. All right, the conversation was first reported by the New York Times. The report comes as McConnell faces increasing criticism. This person did a terrible job with editing because there's several typos here, like the word criticism. It's missing the C right here, you know. And there's just several spelling mistakes that I've already seen. This person did not proofread this article very, very well. I'll try it again. The report comes as McConnell faces increasing scrutiny from conservatives for opting to call Biden president-elect and saying the, quote, electoral college has spoken, end quote. He's among several leading Republican lawmakers who, based on the outcome of Monday's electoral college vote, are calling Biden the election winner after weeks of silence. So basically, you know, for a lot of Republicans, right, and I've been hearing this a lot, especially amongst like McConnell and even Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham that said that, you know, when he was asked about the election results, there was actually a time when he said, "Talk to me on December the 14th," which was yesterday when the electoral college met. So again, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, and several other top Republicans, you know, or Republicans that have been around that have been around for a little while, and especially in the Senate, where the Republican Party still has a majority. A lot of them have said once the electoral college has met and once they've spoken, that was going to be it. You know, they were gonna support President Trump's coup attempt until that happened. The Electoral College on Monday allocated 302 electors to Biden and just 232 to Trump, in accordance with the results of the November 3rd election. That appears to confirm Biden's status as president-elect, something that requires 270 electors at minimum. But President Trump has for weeks been challenging the results of the vote, alleging massive and systemic voter fraud tied in large part to the record use of mail-in ballots during the coronavirus pandemic. Trump, you know, let me go and pause that. Trump, the reason why you have a large amount of mail-in ballots because it was November, it was cold outside, and as you can see from the virus track so far, nobody wants to get sick. The number one reason why people were the number one issue in this election and around the world is obviously the virus. So people aren't going to come outside as often. They're going to mail in the ballots. That's why I predicted Joe Biden was going to win based solely on President Trump's reluctance to accept the mail-in ballots. I said that the day before the election. I said it actually a couple days, even before that. In fact, I've called almost every presidential election right since I was a kid. And I've been doing it into adulthood. And yet the people who are known for it, like Sticks Hexenhammer, they've only been right a couple of times, but I've been right every single time. But he has more subs because he says what people wants to hear. Amazing, huh? Anyways, let's move on to the next part of the article here. All right, so it says here, he refused to concede, and his ardent supporters continue to claim that Biden and his campaign are still in the election. An alternate set of electors have been sent to Congress for key battleground states, predicated on the hope that Trump's legal challenges, so far unsuccessful, might help nullify enough votes to reverse the election outcome now favoring Biden. So with the president himself still resisting concession, McConnell's acknowledgement of Biden has been viewed by some as a staggering betrayal. One supporter of President Donald Trump tweeted, "You have made all the mainstream media, especially CNN, very happy with your pronouncement. Republic voters and poll watchers who are bullied at the polls, not so much," end quote. Newsmax contributed to this report. They contributed. So what's been said here is been said partially by Newsmax. You know, the news source that everyone on the right considers to be boo now. Considers be their boo thing now. You know, it's very, very interesting how that works. Let's see. Newsmax article about Mitch McConnell concession. I'm going to leave that link in the chat for you guys. That link is going to be in the chat. It's right there for you guys. So if you guys want to go and see that, you guys can go ahead and see it. We're going to move on to the very, very next article. The reason why is because I want to try to get in as many articles as possible so you guys can get as many different types of flavors, you know, that you can taste and you can sink your teeth into. So we already got Newsmax. So I'm going to call it out. We got Newsmax. Now we got to go to the left a little bit. So now we're going to go into another one, MSNBC. This is what I like. I've been liking MSNBC a lot more lately because they've been actually attacking Biden and Obama, but people haven't been noticing this. So what we have here is something very interesting. Biden to select Buttigieg or Buttigieg for transportation secretary. That's very interesting. I find that to be very, 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 very intriguing. This is probably going to be, secretary. I'm gonna use another source for this because I wanna actually read it out to you. I don't want to. All right, so Pete Buttigieg or Pete Buttigieg, however you pronounce it. I'm gonna go over CNN. Joe Biden picks Pete Buttigieg or Buttigieg to be transportation secretary. All right, this is gonna be written by Dan Merica. Dan Merica. That is an amazing name from CNN on December the 15th, which is today. So, all right. President-elect Joe Biden will nominate Pete Buttigieg to be his transportation secretary. Sources familiar with the matter tell CNN, elevating the former South Bend, Indiana mayor and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate to a top post in the federal government. So Pete Buttigieg is going to be your transportation secretary. Now, I'm not sure why he was picked for that. Honestly, I thought he could be Secretary of State. You know, that guy has a lot of charisma, and I can see him as president one day. I'm telling you, that guy, he has the potential to be president. But I also think that his pick was very, very important for several other reasons, for the diversity types of reasons. Because, you know, if you didn't really get more diversity in there, it would have become an issue. So it is definitely a shift towards what some would call inclusion. But anyways, let me move on here. Buttigieg will be the first Senate-confirmed LGBT cabinet secretary should his nomination make it through the chamber. The choice, which represents the first time the president-elect has called on one of his former Democratic presidential opponents to join his administration as a cabinet secretary, vaults a candidate Biden spoke glowingly of after the primary into a top job in his incoming administration, and could earn Buttigieg what many Democrats believe is needed experience should he run for president again. The role of transportation secretary is expected to play a central role in Biden's push for a bipartisan infrastructure package. That's going to be very important. This is why I tell Republicans and independents and people who may disagree with Joe Biden or Buttigieg to watch what Buttigieg does, because infrastructure is going to become a big issue in this country, and now you have somebody to point the finger at. And let's say that you are a Republican, or you are a centrist, or you a person, you are an independent that kind of leans right, but you don't want somebody like Buttigieg to become, or Buttigieg to become the president. Well, now is when you need to be paying attention and watching everything that he does, because as America's infrastructure crumbles, now you have somebody to point the finger at. So, him being the first LGBT pick for a cabinet secretary, that's all well and good, but that also makes him stand out. So that means that if he stands out and if he fucks up, guess what that means for you? You get to use that against him in case he ever tries to run, and also you can use that against Joe Biden. All right, so keep that in mind. Don't see losses as necessary losses if things are really, really bad in the country, and you can pin things on people, right? So Buttigieg is, I'm gonna go back and continue with the article here from CNN. Buttigieg is seen as a rising star in the Democratic Party, but someone who lacked an obvious path to a higher elected office given the continued rightward shift of his home state of Indiana. As a presidential candidate, he rolled out a $1 trillion infrastructure plan that would prioritize upgrading the country's crumbling infrastructure and expanding broadband internet access through payment to state and local governments. Buttigieg often spoke about infrastructure on the campaign trail from the perspective of a small mayor, arguing that local governments like the one he once ran needed people in Washington who understood their needs and issues. That's very, very interesting. I do like that as they said here, as a candidate, I do remember him doing that. he pointed out a $1 trillion infrastructure plan, basically, and he put a lot of emphasis on internet usage. There's a lot of people in this country who still don't have access to the internet. Now, it might not be a whole lot of them, but there are still people in this country who don't have access to the internet, or at the very, very least, not high-speed internet. It's a lot of that satellite stuff that's very, very slow, and it drops out very, very often. So under this plan, and under the plan that Biden, plans on doing, is that the Democrats want more people to be online. They want more people to have access to mailing systems. They want more people to order things from online and basically spend a whole lot of money. Just like the Republicans, but the Democrats in particular, they want people to have all this access to high speed internet and all the rest of this stuff for other reasons, for political reasons. And there's several other reasons for that, and I'll get into that a little bit later, and it'll become more and more apparent. All right. Infrastructure reform. Hold on, give me a second. Infrastructure reform had been a priority of Trump's earlier in his 4 years in office, but it routinely took a back seat to other issues. Buttigieg often faulted the administration for failing to do anything on infrastructure, writing in his plan on the issue that the Republican president's team was, quote, incapable of keeping its promise to pass major infrastructure legislation, and critical projects around the country are stalled because of it, end quote. I am going to say, if I were to look at some of the red states like South Carolina and look at some of the roads, I will say Trump did fail there, because those roads are just awful. They're just awful. And I don't think Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg is going to do much better, because the government always claims they're going to fix the infrastructure. And they always claim that they're going to fix the roads and the bridges and they're going to give you better freaking internet. They're going to give you all this great stuff. They always claim this, right? Especially freaking Democrats, right? They always claim this. But how true is it? That remains to be seen, because from what I see, I look at roads across this country, and we drop so much money on the construction equipment used to build those roads, more than the roads themselves. Like that's the most bizarre thing in the world to me. But we do that in this country, and it's so bizarre. But anyways, Buttigieg emerged as the leading candidate for the transportation secretary role in recent days. The former mayor was considered for a host of other posts, including U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and commerce secretary. I think he would have been probably a better U.S. ambassador to the UN versus transportation secretary. Because no one really pays attention to this transportation secretary. But UN ambassador, that's a major role, especially given like what's going on with COVID and everything else. When things open back up, you actually have a nice meeting with the UN and with all the UN member nations, and you have Buttigieg on camera. That would give a much higher social profile and political profile than being transportation secretary. Because you look at like Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley has no real political talent. I mean, she speaks the truth sometimes, but she's not a good politician. Let's be honest. And what's keeping her in people's minds is the fact that she was UN ambassador from the United States. That's what's keeping her memory alive. Because otherwise, from that, can you really think of anything else that she's really, really popular for outside of being South Carolina governor? And even then, it's kind of like, how many things did you really do as governor? I mean, the only thing that she really did, me being a person from South Carolina, been there for more than 30 years, the only thing I say that she ever did that was good as governor is that she questioned Senator Luke Rankin in South Carolina for his obvious corruption with the South Carolina courts. But outside of that, she was garbage. But anyways, let's move on here. Other Democrats were also considered for the post, including former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, and Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo. Rahm Emanuel is garbage. Eric Garcetti is garbage. You want to bring in, okay, so for transportation secretary, if I look at some of the roads in like LA, right? You brought in Eric Garcetti. Eric Garcetti to fix roads. I'm sorry, if you ever been to fucking LA, you wouldn't trust Eric Garcetti with a goddamn with a job of being a freaking dog watcher. Eric Garcetti has been garbage for LA. You got needles on the goddamn grounds. You got people out there starving. You got families suffering. Eric Garcetti has been garbage for LA. The police are sitting there just abusing people. And what has he done to fix it? But you think he's going to come and fix your roads, huh? No, he's not. Buttigieg mounted a stout presidential campaign in 2019 and 2020. Despite starting with very little national recognition, and political experience, the former mayor narrowly won the Iowa caucuses, becoming the first gay presidential candidate in American history to win primary delegates from a major party. He ended his campaign shortly before Super Tuesday in March, after his path to victory had clearly closed following a poor showing in South Carolina, because South Carolina hates gay people. That's why. South Carolina hates gay people. Well, they hate gay people until they pretend to not be gay, like Lindsey Graham. Come on now. Are we really gonna sit here and pretend like Lindsey Graham is straight? Are we really gonna sit here and pretend like Lindsey Graham is straight? Okay, all right. We're gonna just move on. Although Buttigieg and Biden enjoyed a mostly friendly relationship during the primary, the Biden campaign did put out a mocking digital ad that diminished the former mayor's experience, including the work he did to revitalize downtown South Bend. Quote, when President Obama called on him, Joe Biden helped lead the passage of the Affordable Care Act, end quote, the narrator of the ad said. Quote, and when parkgoers called on Pete Buttigieg, he installed decorative lights under bridges, giving citizens of South Bend colorfully illuminated rivers, end quote, because he's gay. That sounds like I don't understand how that ad was supposed to like hurt Pete Buttigieg, because, you know, a gay guy would put a bunch of colorful lights under bridges, you know, and illuminate rivers. Like that sounds like a freaking interior designer type of move, right? Like I don't understand what exactly Joe Biden was trying to prove here, because it's just so weird. But let's move on here. Still after ending his presidential campaign, Buttigieg endorsed Biden and spent much of the general election headlining fundraisers and events for the former vice president. Biden praised Buttigieg at a March event in Dallas, comparing him to his late son, Beau Biden. Quote, I know that may not mean much to most people, but to me, it's the highest compliment I can give any man or woman, end quote, Joe Biden said at the time. But you made fun of him because he was gay. Because again, if you look at the whole ad, you know, making fun of the gay guy for putting decorative lights under bridges, you kind of pointing out that he's gay, because that's such a gay guy move, you know. So whatever, guy, whatever you say, Joe Biden, I'm sure, right? I'm sure that you, Obama, and Bill Clinton, and all the rest of them, you love gay people, even though you didn't pass any kind of executive orders to end marriage discrimination. You waited for the Supreme Court to do it. So I'm sure that you love gay people, right? Right. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm going to just drop a link to this article in chat. But we're gonna move on to another news source, because again, I don't want to just focus on one news source the entire time. I want to give you guys multiple sources. You know, that way you guys can feast on multiple news sources. So here's the one from CNN. All right, so we're going to move on to another news source. All right, so we're going to close this out real quick. All right, so we're going to go over to Fox News. Fox News had a couple of interesting pieces on there that I wanted to go over, but I have various things that I want to look at here. All right, so I want to go down here. This one is a very spicy story, okay? LA's new DA, George Gascon, to drop special charges in accused cop killer's case report. DA George Gascon has drawn the wrath of the officer's sister. You know, one thing I want to inform this sister of, there's a whole lot of sisters out there who was upset because cops killed their brothers and their loved ones. So welcome to the club. Not saying that I don't have any kind of empathy, but welcome to the club of injustice. You know how someone gets to just like walk free after they just killed your freaking loved one? Now you see what it freaking feels like. So I'm pretty sure that then, you know, if your loved one would just gun down, you know, a citizen, you know, you would just excuse it. Well, they should just obey the law. But now all of a sudden your loved one gets gunned down. Now you want to cry about it. You know, in LA, I remember the Rodney King riots. I remember you know, all the abuses that caused the Black Panther Party to go and, you know, and patrol black neighborhoods in the 60s and 70s. And then you passed the Mulford Act in 1967 when Ronald Reagan was the governor, and you banned open carry to prevent the Black Panthers from protecting black people. But now you want my empathy when a cop gets gunned down, and now you upset because someone's gonna walk free from it? No, you get no empathy. Especially not LAPD. LAPD has been known to abuse black folk, have been known to abuse citizens. You want my sympathy? You want my empathy? No, you can't have it. But let's get into the article here. The new DA in LA wants to drop special circumstance allegations against a man charged last year with shooting an off-duty law enforcement officer in the head, according to a report. The move by DA George Gascon has angered the sister of LA County Deputy Joshua Gilbert Solano. Fox 11 Los Angeles reported Tuesday, quote, "Completely in shock. I can't tell you. My heart just dropped. I couldn't believe it," end quote. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Tamir Rice's mother couldn't believe it either. She also says he should be there for the families. We are the victims here, not this person who shot him. I don't understand what his purpose is to let these murderers out of jail. I don't get it. He's like the devil. I don't understand it. So was Breonna Taylor's murderer. You get no fucking empathy from me, bitch. Sorry. Every time a cop gets goddamn shot, I laugh. Until I see justice, I feel no empathy for you whatsoever. Not even your fam. I don't give a shit. You want do you want to know why? Do you want to know why? Because you felt no empathy for when black folks get fucking gunned down, or white folks, or any fucking folks. Okay, so fuck your goddamn brother. He fucking deserved it. I said it. Clip it. Clip it. Chris Dorner was fucking right. Chris Dorner was fucking right. Rhett Nelson, 31 of Utah, was accused of walking up to Deputy Solano at a Jack in the Box fast food outlet in Alhambra in June 2019 and shooting him in the back of the head. The 50-year-old Solano died 2 days later. Oh well. Earlier that same day, prosecutors said Nelson also fatally shot Dmitry Koltsov, a professional skateboarder from Russia. Well, I feel bad for that guy, but the cop, I feel nothing for. Nope. LAPD, the way fucking LAPD goddamn abuses people. You know what? You can put all the little flowers, all that shit with there. I've gotten that fucking to scream. All the flower shit. Fuck you. You fucking deserved it. No, LAPD abuses too many goddamn people, so whenever they fucking die, I feel no goddamn empathy. I'm not gonna cry for you. You fucking deserved it. After his arrest, Nelson was charged with two counts, with two counts each of murder and second-degree robbery, as well as one count of attempted murder. His case also included special circumstance allegations of multiple murders and murder by means of discharging a firearm from a motor vehicle, as well as allegations of using a handgun in the commission of the crimes. Oh well, I feel no empathy for that guy. None. You wanna know why? Because Chris Dorner The guy who was a former LAPD officer, Chris Dorner, you know, I'm going to take a little pause there. And I know some people are going to be really, really upset with what I just said, but I don't give a shit. Chris Dorner was a former LAPD officer who decided to go and kill a bunch of cops after he was fired when he was trying to report, apparently, that a female officer who was nicknamed Chupacabra kicked a suspect in the back of the head, also in the chest, and kicked him in the face. And she was called the Chupacabra because she was known to draw blood. Well, apparently, Chris Dorner didn't care for that, so he tried to actually report it. Well, what happened to Chris Dorner was then demonized. He was then made to be out to be a liar. He was then treated like a monster. He was then told that that he would lose his job. They basically ruined this man's life. They ruined this man's life, and now you want empathy from me for this goddamn dead cop. You just don't get no damn empathy for me. You just get no empathy from me when it comes to cops who get killed now. No. If you want my empathy, then speak out when they do something wrong. You want my empathy? Speak out when they fuck up. You want my empathy? Say something when Tamir Rice gets fucking gunned down, when all he had was a fucking toy gun. When you tell me that I can't even spank my goddamn son, because otherwise that's fucking child abuse. If my son points a freaking toy gun at me, you know, as a combat veteran, suddenly, and if I were to spank him for it, you call that fucking child abuse. But if a fucking cop shoots him, that's okay. And you want my fucking empathy? Spare me. No, you get no empathy from me. If you are a cop and you get killed from now on, you get zero empathy from me. In fact, at this point, you fucking deserve it. You fucking deserve it. No, when I start seeing justice for my people, when I start seeing justice for other people, when I start seeing people out here call out the people who do fucked up shit to other citizens, when I start seeing people hold cops accountable, when I start seeing this qualified immunity bullshit go away, that's when dead cops can get fucking sympathy from me. Until then, I feel the exact same way that BLM feels like. Pigs in a fucking blanket, fry them like goddamn bacon. Fuck them. Anyways, guys, we're going to take a 30-minute break. We're going to be back with more Pitchfork podcast. Yeah, I talk that kind of shit. I say it. And if you guys know any hardcore OTLs who want to call in and talk shit to me, give them the number. 253-203-6784. 253-203-6784. Call them, tell them that they got a darkie they can argue with. Okay? Also, the link to my Discord is also in the chat, guys. If you don't have a phone, you just want to just join the Discord, then let me know. You can join the Discord and you can chat with me on Discord server. Anyways, guys, until then, I'm going to be right back in 30 minutes. We're going to go ahead and drop a little video for you guys to watch, and be right back. 30 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. A riot is the language of the unheard.
There are some people who love to pretend that there are no problems with policing and courts and everything else. And there's some people who make it about race and say that it's just Black Lives Matter and Antifa and other groups who are complaining about this. Well, unfortunately for that point, I'm not going to begin this video with an example of a black person. Instead, I'm going to use an old white woman. This woman's name is Brenda Bryant. She's a fugitive. You see, Brenda Bryant is a target of retaliation from the state of South Carolina through systemic targeting that made her a criminal somehow. And it's all because she won a Supreme Court case against the state of South Carolina where she was seeking justice for her daughter who was mentally disabled, who was gang raped and got an STD. And when the state would not prosecute, she sued the adult care facility in which her daughter was supposed to be washed. I've interviewed her several times. I have her phone number. I know her personally. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does this 60-plus-year-old woman who bakes cookies end up becoming a fugitive? Well, you see, her daughter, Stephanie Bryant, she is mentally disabled. And according to Supreme Court documents from the state of South Carolina, she has the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old.
Because it's all about the government controlling the person, taking the person for profit, that they can make money off of through the state and federal dollars. When she was 2, she was diagnosed and with mental retardation. Now we call them special needs, but still she was delayed. In other words, at the age of about 20, Stephanie was on an 8-year-old level.
When Stephanie turned 18, officials from the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, or DDSN, showed up to Stephanie's high school and essentially coerced her into signing herself into an adult care facility.
So I stayed at home, kept Stephanie, and about when she turned 17, her case manager began to tell me that she needed to go in a group home, that it would be, she would learn so much more and she would become more independent, and that it would, just be more suitable for her. And I said, no, Stephanie is fine at home. She is my child, and she will stay at home until I'm not able to take care of her. So the case manager, every time we had a meeting, she continued to bring that up. She would even talk to Stephanie about it. Well, eventually, I just adamantly said no. So Stephanie turned 18. She went to school one day. The class mother for her special needs class for 2 or 3 years, Stephanie didn't come home on the bus. She never came home. And I thought there was a bus accident. So I called the school, and they said, no, there was no report of an accident. I called her teacher, and I would learn that the case manager went to her school and had Stephanie to voluntarily sign herself in to the group home.
Wait, so let me make sure I understand, make sure I repeat this, because again, some people watching this may find this to be a little bit hard to believe, and you can't blame them, Brenda. This sounds outrageous. But basically, what you're saying is that a DDSN caseworker showed up to your daughter's special needs class with a binding legal document and got her to sign it.
Yes.
When you were her legal guardian.
I was not her guardian. I was her mother.
So basically, they saw it as, okay, this is a person who's just mentally disabled going to a high school, but we're not going to actually contact the mother before we get her to sign this.
That's correct. And in fact,
she had a job working as a dishwasher at Pizza Hut, something she loved and looked forward to. State was in control of my child. They got her Social Security check. They began to work her. They worked her on a county dump site, paying her like $1.35 an hour, working her about 40 hours a week. This went on from September until it took me 4 months to finally find out where my daughter was. We did not have the thousands. I went to see an attorney, and at that time, we are talking about 25 years ago, there was no way, the attorneys weren't even that familiar with special needs, the state agency for mentally challenged, and the guardianship issue for special needs. That was 25 years ago.
Once in that facility, Stephanie was gang raped and got an STD. When Brenda heard about this, she was obviously upset.
Stephanie was in the group home. Probably she went in 93, so about 2 years, and we couldn't get her out. And so one morning, the staff member appeared at my house about 10 o'clock, and she said to me, Stephanie is missing. And I said, what? And she said, Stephanie's missing. We filed proper reports. Of course, my worst nightmare as a mother. In all the time she had lived on, Stephanie had never once gotten away from me. My worst nightmare as a mother was the morning they come and told me my child was gone. 3 men picked her up, and they took her across town and gang raped her all night. The next day, she would be found. She was found the next day. And the agency, and I'm shortening this, but the agency told Stephanie not to tell me she had been raped. The administrators, there were several administration people and the staff, and when I was at the house and they had found her, they talked with her before I was able to get to her, and they told her not to tell me. They weren't going to take her for a rape protocol.
I did that. I called the DDSN attorney, who then instructed Babcock Center that Stephanie was to be took to the hospital.
Let me pause it there. Let me pause it there. They didn't allow you, the mother of a rape victim, to see the rape victim.
Well, we went to the hospital, my husband and I. When we got there, the group home had gone in and informed the hospital that they personally had guardianship of Stephanie, and there was no guardianship. Therefore, that we were not allowed as her parents to see her.
That's correct.
And there was actually a rape kit done.
Yes, it was.
And the rape kit indicated signs of sexual assault, correct?
Definitely.
Because that's what you presented to the Supreme Court, who agreed that Stephanie was raped.
Correct.
So she went to the then Richland County, South Carolina, solicitor named Barney Geese. This man claimed that Stephanie Bryant, a woman with the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old, was a, quote, fully competent mentally disabled woman, end quote. I remember that quote, and I remember when I first wrote your story, and I read what Greenville News put out and the Nerve with Rick Bergeret, and I read that quote. That Barney Geese actually said that the reason why Stephanie could not have been raped is because she was, quote, and I'm actually quoting him. He said that she was a fully competent, mentally disabled woman.
That's correct.
She brought the case before the South Carolina Supreme Court in a case that is named Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center. And the Babcock Center is a place where Stephanie Bryant was supposed to be watched and cared for. The reason why they called it Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center is because the name was changed to acknowledge that Stephanie Bryant was a victim of sexual assault. If you were to read the South Carolina Supreme Court documents, the Babcock Center claimed that they had, quote, no duty of care, end quote, because of a black and white view of either watching Stephanie all the time or none of the time. And that is despite the fact the Babcock Center and DDSN were receiving Stephanie's monthly Social Security benefits, meaning they were getting paid by South Carolina taxpayers, and on their watch, this woman was raped and got an STD.
No one told us that Stephanie had an STD herpes. We finally got guardianship. I filed for guardianship and got her out of Babcock Center. And no one told us that Stephanie had the STD. They sent her back home to us, never telling us. It was not until I got her records from Babcock Center, for the attorney got her records, and we went through them, and it said sexually transmitted disease that Stephanie had gotten as a result of that rape that night.
Long story short, Brenda Bryant won the case in the South Carolina Supreme Court. And given what the Babcock Center and DDSN and South Carolina tried to claim, had Brenda Bryant lost that case, do you understand the implications of that? Okay, so what the Supreme Court said is that Stephanie was not competent enough to consent because she had the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old. But this judge that came before the Supreme Court in a lower court, he claimed that she was mentally competent.
He put that in his order.
Then you told me that Judge Edward Sylvain, he presented a letter from DDSN stating that you should be removed as guardian, and this was during the Supreme Court case.
Now, the letter was sent while we were in the Supreme Court. It was sent by the Greenville Disability, where Stephanie was at. It was sent by their attorney.
Right.
But understand that DDSN and Greenville Disability are connected. DDSN funds the Greenville Disability.
Right.
And so that letter was sent during the course of the Supreme Court case. And so it was not presented, though, for 5 years. Judge Sylvain did not bring it up, didn't present it. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is this. He didn't care about Stephanie's welfare until there was $120-something thousand going into a trust account.
And the next thing you know, the probate judge says, I've got this letter. And he said, I'm concerned. I don't think that you might not have her best interest. I'm going to appoint my own guardian ad litem, which was Teresa Horton. Well, they had not bothered me until I went to set the trust fund up with Stephanie's money. Well, at the end of the year, the bill for the guardian ad litem and the guardians just happened to be, their bill just happened to be almost $115,000. Stephanie would have left Stephanie approximately $5,000 of her $120,000.
She found herself in courtroom after courtroom being charged legal fee after legal fee to the point where the money that she won from the Supreme Court case was all taken away by South Carolina courts through civil fees. And so when Brenda Bryant couldn't afford to pay, a bench warrant was issued. And so begins Brenda Bryant's long journey of injustice, of being persecuted, all because she has a history of going after the South Carolina government and winning.
The one thing that was being pushed by the agency at that time, they were asking legislators for respite dollars, respite money, so that parents could have a break. And so, long story short, the legislators approved the respite money, and when they did, the state agency didn't assist the parents. I became the voice for the parents, and I confronted the state agency. I said, wait a minute, you've got money for respite, why? And then long story short, on that part, so I became, you might say, I began to question the state agency on our services. I believe that was the beginning at that time, because I was questioning how they were using the funds that were supposed to be appropriated for families to get them some respite relief.
And they want to silence her, because how do you explain someone who has a daughter who's been raped, gets an STD, the state refuses to prosecute? That state's own Supreme Court sides with this woman, and somehow she ends up becoming a fugitive. And when she became a fugitive, she was placed into the FBI's National Crime Information Center report listing. Sometimes this is called a NICS check. It's the same FBI check that you go through when you buy a firearm. This woman was placed into the NCIC as a violent offender, even though she had no violent offenses. And the way that I confirmed this, and the way that 18 publications from South Carolina confirmed this, was that she was picked up in Buncombe County in North Carolina. And both I and 18 other journalists called Buncombe County, and they confirmed that she was placed into the NCIC, which prompted Buncombe County at that time to call South Carolina and informed them to never place anyone else into the NCIC as a violent offender if they're not actually a violent offender. This woman is living in exile right now. She ain't been home in over 9 years. We have a pandemic going on right now, and her husband is a senior citizen who is 70 plus years old and has had 3 massive heart attacks. She has emailed judges and politicians to beg to come home to see her daughter, who is probably alone and confused and scared without her mother, who protected her throughout her life, and her husband, who could die at any point. And yet South Carolina has been so cruel, so vindictive, so disgusting that this state persecuted Brenda Bryant for no other reason than she fought the power and won. And yet there are people out there with the nerve and the audacity to ask, why is there anger? This woman has my phone number. She calls me. She's alone, scared, and confused. And there are people out there, pieces of human garbage, who would have no empathy for that woman. Had Brenda Bryant lost that case, do you understand the implications of that? Her case has been used as a precedent as far as the U.S. Virgin Islands. If care facilities have no duty of care, as the Babcock Center tried to claim, that means that your loved one, should they be gang raped and get an STD, no one will be held accountable.
I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. A riot is the language of the unheard.
There are some people who love to pretend that there are no problems with policing and courts and everything else. And there's some people who make it about race and say that it's just Black Lives Matter and Antifa and other groups who are complaining about this. Well, unfortunately for that point, I'm not going to begin this video with an example of a black person. Instead, I'm going to use an old white woman. This woman's name is Brenda Bryant. She's a fugitive. You see, Brenda Bryant is a target of retaliation from the state of South Carolina through systemic targeting that made her a criminal somehow. And it's all because she won a Supreme Court case against the state of South Carolina where she was seeking justice for her daughter who was mentally disabled, who was gang raped and got an STD. And when the state would not prosecute, she sued the adult care facility in which her daughter was supposed to be washed. I've interviewed her several times. I have her phone number. I know her personally. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does this 60-plus-year-old woman who bakes cookies end up becoming a fugitive? Well, you see, her daughter, Stephanie Bryant, she is mentally disabled. And according to Supreme Court documents from the state of South Carolina, she has the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old.
Because it's all about the government controlling the person, taking the person for profit, that they can make money off of through the state and federal dollars. When she was 2, she was diagnosed and with mental retardation. Now we call them special needs, but still she was delayed. In other words, at the age of about 20, Stephanie was on an 8-year-old level.
When Stephanie turned 18, officials from the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, or DDSN, showed up to Stephanie's high school and essentially coerced her into signing herself into an adult care facility.
So I stayed at home, kept Stephanie, and about when she turned 17, her case manager began to tell me that she needed to go in a group home, that it would be, she would learn so much more and she would become more independent, and that it would, just be more suitable for her. And I said, no, Stephanie is fine at home. She is my child, and she will stay at home until I'm not able to take care of her. So the case manager, every time we had a meeting, she continued to bring that up. She would even talk to Stephanie about it. Well, eventually, I just adamantly said no. So Stephanie turned 18. She went to school one day. The class mother for her special needs class for 2 or 3 years. Stephanie didn't come home on the bus. She never came home. And I thought there was a bus accident. So I called the school, and they said, no, there was no report of an accident. I called her teacher, and I would learn that the case manager went to her school and had Stephanie to voluntarily sign herself in to the group home.
Wait, so let me make sure I understand, make sure I repeat this, because again, some people watching this may find this to be a little bit hard to believe, and you can't blame them, Brenda. This sounds outrageous. But basically, what you're saying is that a DDSN caseworker showed up to your daughter's special needs class with a binding legal document and got her to sign it.
Yes.
When you were her legal guardian.
I was not her guardian. I was her mother.
So basically, they saw it as, okay, this is a person who's just mentally disabled going to a high school, but we're not going to actually contact the mother before we get her to sign this.
That's correct. And in fact,
she had a job working as a dishwasher at Pizza Hut, something she loved and looked forward to. State was in control of my child. They got her Social Security check. They began to work her. They worked her on a county dump site, paying her like $1.35 an hour, working her about 40 hours a week. This went on from September until it took me 4 months to finally find out where my daughter was. We did not have the thousands. I went to see an attorney, and at that time, we are talking about 25 years ago, there was no way, the attorneys weren't even that familiar with special needs, the state agency for mentally challenged, and the guardianship issue for special needs. That was 25 years ago.
Once in that facility, Stephanie was gang raped and got an STD. When Brenda heard about this, she was obviously upset.
Stephanie was in the group home. Probably she went in 93, so about 2 years, and we couldn't get her out. And so one morning, the staff member appeared at my house about 10 o'clock, and she said to me, Stephanie is missing. And I said, what? And she said, Stephanie's missing. We filed the proper reports. Of course, you know, my worst nightmare as a mother. In all the time she had lived on, Stephanie had never once gotten away from me. My worst nightmare as a mother was...
All right, guys. I'm back. So we had a pretty heated little rant there towards the end, because that's how I love to do towards every segment. So I like to just get in on it. That's how I feel about cops, honestly. Honestly, I just feel like the only way that they're gonna stop abusing people is if a bunch of them end up dead. I'm not telling anybody to do that. But honestly, if I'm just being honest and saying, how do I think police are going to reform themselves? Well, unfortunately, in this country, the only thing that really changes anything is mass violence. Think about it. Or a mass amount of people dying. Think about it. When's the last time you seen any major changes on a national level? How many times do you really see that without a bunch of people dying or the threat of a bunch of people goddamn dying? We're not proactive in this country. We are reactive. That's the honest truth. We are reactive in this country, and so therefore, you know, I look throughout this year, and I got to tell you, I've been to 48 states in 6 months. And the one thing that I tell you from most people that I talk to, they only saw these changes after a bunch of cops start getting killed. And honestly, I think, unfortunately, that may have to happen a little bit more, maybe triple or quadruple those amounts to get the fucking point across. Stop abusing people. And I think that if the cops have the fear that they would be dragged outside of their homes and murdered in the goddamn streets, they would stop. You know, everyone talks about the 1776 and the Second Amendment. That's what the fucking Second Amendment was intended for. When agents of the goddamn government starts abusing people, you resist. You don't bootlick. You don't make fucking excuses. Well, now they're all bad apples. Shut the fuck up with that shit. You see, no matter how many times you try to say that shit to me, right? I'm never gonna fucking accept it, right? So why fucking say it? No point, right? Because you know it's fucking bullshit, and I know it's fucking bullshit, and I actually worked law enforcement. What are you gonna fucking say to me? Oh, well, you haven't been to goddamn war. I've been there. Bullshit. You haven't worked law enforcement? Done it. Shut up. I've done all the shit that you would normally throw at people, saying that oh, you gotta go do this. And even if someone hadn't done that before, how the fuck does that make them exempt from being able to goddamn criticize? It's bullshit. That's why those people, I don't even listen to them at all. I don't listen to a word that they have to fucking say, because I know they're full of shit, and they know that they are full of goddamn shit. So we're gonna go back to news stories, guys. We're gonna go back over to the live scene. All right, so we covered stories from Newsmax, CNN, also Fox News, and we also discovered one from Fox here. I gotta tell you, I just don't feel any kind of sympathy. Dead cop stories, don't feel any sympathy. No, you want me to feel sympathy? Start changing your fucking cops then. Otherwise, I just don't care. There is something here that I thought was interesting that should be coming a little bit later, though. Huffington Post put out something interesting. We need a national day of mourning for COVID-19 victims. You know, I have to say, they make a very good argument there. I mean, honestly, we may need, a national day of mourning, because we lost a lot of people, and a lot of people that people lost were, people's grandmothers, people's sick people, people who have people who haven't necessarily done anything wrong or were like bad people, just got sick. National Day of Mourning for COVID-19 patients. Yeah, COVID-19 patients, except for cops. I don't feel any sympathy for fucking them. I hope all of them get goddamn COVID, to be honest with you. But anyways, let's read from this article here. It says over 300,000 people have died of the coronavirus in the U.S. and as thousands more die each day, Americans have not had the chance to collectively mourn. Yeah, everything is so fast paced in this society. People haven't had a chance to really mourn. They're falling, and if you're falling as a goddamn cop, then sorry, I don't feel any sympathy for you. But for everybody else, I feel a lot of sympathy and empathy, man. Because it just this virus just like blindsided people. It hit people, just out of nowhere. It says here, we need a national day of mourning for the coronavirus as the first vaccinations began in the U.S. on Monday, bring with them a ray of hope. The nation hit a grim milestone, more than 300,000 people dead from the virus so far. We've been struggling, said Douglas Yankton, chairman of the Spirit Lake tribe in North Dakota. Native Americans have been disproportionately infected, hospitalized, and killed by the virus. Yankton lost 4 family members, an uncle and 3 cousins in the span of a week. It's a burden not only on the families, but on the community when we keep having to bury our people, he said. Wow, that's... I actually talked to several native tribes from South Carolina and several around the country, and, the lack of response from the government, it's kind of sad, because those people, right, when they get sick, they're on those reservations, and those reservations aren't exactly created for, it's not exactly the most optimal environment that you want to be in for those freaking viruses, man. And so, the virus spread through those reservations quick, and that's really, really unfortunate, because a lot of those people suffer. A lot of those people, wow. Yeah, we may need a national day of mourning. They're talking about the natives here, but here, with an average now of 2,400 people dying each day of the coronavirus, Black and Latinx people have been disproportionately affected, not only by the deaths, but also by the economic fallout from the pandemic, including high rates of joblessness. The Latinx, I don't understand that one. Just like I don't understand the whole the whole person of color stuff. I just don't understand that. Like, where did that actually come from? Like maybe somebody could just explain that one to me. Maybe I should go ahead and research that. But right now I'm just reading from this article. I never looked into it. But Latinx, people of color, it sounds almost like offensive terms, to be honest with you. But they actually got some advice here from a grief coach. Brashia Wade said that a national day of observance for the coronavirus losses would be important for, quote, accountability and acknowledging the massive failure in how this played out, end quote. Quote, it's not just the death toll. There's the loss of a way of life, of American identity, and what it means to be a cohesive country that comes together to protect its citizens, end quote, Wade said. There's a loss of trust with our neighbors, with some wearing a mask and some who aren't. That is, what? I thought the whole grief coach thing was like silly, but honestly, she has a point. Cause like that has created a big divide. Let me she's right. That has created a big divide, man. When it comes to, masks have now become a political issue. Masks have become a huge political issue. So, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. She has a point. That has certainly harmed the cohesion of the country because, at one point people could just, say things, and they could shake hands and just move on. Whereas now, you're getting like me, and it's just like, my patience level is just low. Like, people I tolerate trolls before. It's like, do I really gotta tolerate you now? No. You know what I'm saying? So, let's read the second part she said right here. I thought it was very, very interesting. We need something to bring us together to honor what has been lost if we're going to have any hope of healing. A national day of mourning. That was interesting. National days of observance are typically enacted by Congress, after which the president issues a proclamation on that day each year, and local governments may also hold dedicated ceremonies or events. Existing ones include Veterans Day and Hispanic Heritage Month. Representative Donald Payne Jr., a Democrat from New Jersey, introduced a resolution in the House last month calling for a day of mourning for coronavirus coronavirus victims in January to provide, quote, a national opportunity to grieve, end quote. Unless there's some pork attached to that or anything else, why would you not pass that immediately? We do need to, for the new year, have a national day of mourning. Or maybe in February. Well, no, not for Black History Month. Let's just leave that alone. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you that is a terrible idea. Or it could be at the beginning of summer. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure why anybody would go against what Representative Payne brought into the House in terms of a resolution. But let's move on here. The legislation, which is specifically calls out the disproportionate infection rates and deaths among communities of colors, is sitting in the House Oversight Committee. That's why, because you had to add some silly shit about people of color. Listen. Everybody was dying from this shit. You're right. Black people were disproportionately dying from it, but white people aren't crying any less from their loved ones dying in like nursing homes, man. Let's not otherize people now. Let's not try to separate people now. At this point, people died, bro. People who were innocent. They weren't cops. So let's just pass this bill without that kind of silly people of color shit attached to it. Now I'm totally on board with BLM now. I'm totally on board with the Black cause now. I'm totally on board with the Black Panther Party. Totally on board with them. Absolutely. But there's a time and a place for that shit. It is not right now. But anyways, Payne, whose best friend lost his mother to COVID-19, plans to ask other lawmakers to support the resolution once the more immediate concern of passing another economic stimulus package has been resolved. And that's very, very interesting. I thought that this is an interesting article. The idea that we need a national day of mourning. I thought that was very thoughtful. I thought that for once the media. I mean, even though you had the social justice shit in there, right? I thought that. Mourning for COVID victims. I thought that was pretty interesting, that they would allow, they would actually allow that kind of thing onto the Huffington Post, because oftentimes, you don't get that sort of deep thought from the Huffington Post. You get one-sided thoughts often, and that's really unfortunate, given the fact that there could be so much more potential for positive change in people's lives, and especially the lives of the American people. If the Huffington Post and others wouldn't focus so much on race and color and everything else, and would focus just on the news and telling the truth about the news. Race and color, that kind of stuff, is some things that I talk about all the time, but I'm not mainstream media. I'm not getting paid billions in your tax dollars. I only have a single fucking patron, and that's why I talk as much shit as I talk, because I don't care about offending people, because you ain't paying me for it. So I'm not being paid. I'm like Christopher Hitchens. I'm not running for anything, and you're not paying me, so I ain't got to pretend to freaking like nobody. And that's why a lot of people come to me. They'll pretend like they don't watch my content, but they actually do, because they want the actual honest opinion. They want the opinion from Progressive Voice, from TYT, from MSNBC, and then they also want the opinion from Sticks Hexahammer, and from Brandon Tatum, and from Newsmax, and then Fox News, and then they come to people like me, who actually, is their truth, that truth, and then there's me. I have some opinions. Like, I don't like cops, but that's just me personally. But when it comes to judging things objectively in terms of like the news and everything else, yeah, I'm good at it. So, anyways, let's go back to the live scene, guys. We're gonna go back here. All right, so I thought that was interesting personally from the Huffington Post. I think it's a very good idea. We do need a national day of mourning. And let's go back to Huffington Post here. I think I want to hit some more stories here. They've been putting out some interesting stuff lately. All right. So there was one thing I saw. Oh, this was interesting. Barack Obama trolls Donald Trump with birther joke. The former president had a witty comeback for the Daily Show host Trevor Noah's question about roasting people who didn't run for the White House. Former President Barack Obama poked fun at President Trump's false and racist birther remarks on him in a preview of an interview that will air in full on Tuesday's episode of The Daily Show. In a teaser clip released online Monday, host Trevor Noah asked Obama if he'd be more careful going forward about who you roast. So Noah says, you roasted Donald Trump, he ran for president. You roasted Kanye West, he ran for president. So I don't know if you've noticed, but you have an ability to inspire people to run for the highest office in the land with some of the jokes you tell about them. And Obama came back with, I should roast people I admire more. I'll start roasting you, man. Who knows? Then he came back and said, although you weren't born here, but look, I was able to get away with it, apparently. Who knows? So basically, he was kind of cracking jokes at that. I thought that was like a pretty nice way of like making a joke at it. He wasn't being like serious or anything, but it wasn't, I mean, Trump trolls people all the time, so I thought that was interesting. Obama trolls Trump. Let's go ahead and leave a link down there, so you guys just read that and see. I thought that was something that's pretty. I thought was interesting. I was looking for that article earlier, but let's close this out. All right, so we're gonna go over to TMZ. TMZ. I know you're gonna laugh, so we're gonna go to TMZ, and we're going to look at some weird things on TMZ news. We're gonna go down here. All right. So this story has been blowing up lately. It's something that I'm not gonna show the video. I'm gonna link you to it. This story really upset me because I hate it when people do this kind of shit to animals. But one woman threw an animal off a balcony. It really made me upset. It really upset me. Monster throws innocent animal from balcony. There we go. So that story, you guys can look at the video yourself. I'm not gonna show that, man. That's just if you guys want to watch it, you can. But I just want to talk about the story. You can see the date. This is on 12/14/2020. So that was just yesterday that this actually happened. If you're looking for a Christmas miracle, look no further than this German Shepherd who survived an horrific incident of animal cruelty at a Florida motel. So of course it had to be Florida. The pooch has appropriately been named Miracle by the Volusia County Sheriff's deputies who showed up Monday at a Daytona Beach motel responding to calls about a suicidal woman. You know, the freaking sheriff's deputies, they probably would have shot the dog in any other scenario, but since it was a puppy, maybe they might have shown some mercy, because I know they shoot a whole lot of little puppies and dogs, claiming that they're all vicious. You know, that's how road pirates are. Anyways, but deputies went to her second floor room and knocked on the door, but got no reply from the woman for a few minutes. When she finally opened the door, she quickly stepped out with the dog, immediately picked it up and threw it over the railing as deputies yelled and tried to stop her. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, you piece of shit. I hope they fuck you up in prison. I hope they fuck you up in prison. You piece of shit. You piece of, I hope they fuck you up. Cops pounced on Allison Murphy and arrested her on the spot. During the arrest, you hear them asking other deputies outside the room if the dog is okay. Amazingly, she was. Miracle didn't even break anything. The cops were able to recover her as she tried to run away after the fall. Yeah, I totally get why you would actually run away from humans, because you met a piece of shit right here. A piece of shit right here who just abused you. So I get it. I would run from humans too. It's not your fault. God damn, man. Oh, that is just horrible, man. Like, she just threw this dog off the balcony why would you do that? Why would you do that, you piece of shit? Miracle is now in the custody of Animal Services. As for Murphy, she was booked for felony animal cruelty and resisting an officer without violence. She's still in custody. More importantly, you gotta hope Miracle finds a new home for the holidays. Wow. I hope you do. I hope you find a new home and get away from that cop, because that cop might try to shoot you. She's a cop, you know. You don't want to trust cops. But that's horrible. She just threw this poor animal off the balcony like that. It's a fucking Florida woman, of course. You know. Dog survived the fall, man. Some people out here are just pieces of shit, bro. Like, how could you do that to the animal? That is awful. That is awful. People like that should get the fucking death penalty. I'm sorry. That's awful. She just picked his dogs up and just throws it over the balcony. Like, how could you hurt the animal like that? Like, what did the animal do to deserve that? I just don't understand. Like, so they get a call saying that she was suicidal, right? The woman here, her name is Allison Murphy, that she was suicidal. And then so when the cop showed up, she just picks her dog up and just throws it over the balcony for no reason. And as you can see, the dog's a friendly dog. Ain't biting people and shit. Looks just as happy, and it was a miracle, and they actually named the dog Miracle because when she threw the dog off and the dog landed on the goddamn pavement here, the dog didn't break anything. I mean, I'm sure that there was some sore spots and stuff, but dog didn't break anything. That's like a freaking miracle that you got thrown off a freaking balcony from that high, because you can see she's kind of high up there. If you look at that video right there, she's kind of high up. It's amazing that the dog actually made it and wasn't hurt. But Allison Murphy, you are a piece of shit, and I hope they fuck you up in prison. Ooh, I hope they fuck. Don't you worry, because those prisoners, when they learn about, you know, people who abuse animals, oh son, oh my God, they gonna fuck you up. That is fucked up, man. Oh, that's fucked up. But let's go to another article here. There was something else that I saw that really that was grinding my gears, man. That was really getting to me. Let's go back to TMZ. TMZ, man, they give you some real bangers. Okay. This one was kind of hard to watch. Keontae Johnson out of coma and talking days after collapsing on the court. So this is Keontae Johnson. He was this Florida basketball player. He just collapsed on the court. It was a scary story. It was like you don't understand how scary it is until you actually see it. You know, it was pretty scary, man. Oh, it was pretty scary. Let me go ahead and turn on the desktop audio so you guys can hear this. It was really scary, bro. Like it was pretty horrifying. I ain't gonna lie to you. He just dropped, man. It was like, oh, like it was like, oh, you just knew he was dead. You just knew he was dead.
Fight tonight, but this afternoon.
Full screen mode. Let me show you real quick.
Florida star basketball.
There you go.
Tonight, but this afternoon, Florida star basketball player.
Look at that! Oh my God!
Early in the game against Florida State.
Oh my God! Look at that! He just drops, yo. Yo, it was crazy.
ESPNU game said that Johnson had collapsed.
Hold on, let me show y'all that again, bro. He just drops. Like that was one of the scariest things I've ever seen, like on like basketball, yo. Look, oh my God, he just dropped out, and I thought that he was dead, yo. I thought he was dead. I'm not gonna lie to you, he looks dead, bro. He looks dead, bro.
Collapsed. He was taken to the locker room. The latest reports have Johnson in critical but stable
condition. Yeah, his teammates were worried about it, man.
And
he's actually right now he's up and talking, you know, and I'm so happy for that kid, man, because he just dropped. Oh, they say he's up and talking days after collapsing on the court, and I'm so happy for that kid. You know, I'm a big basketball fan, and that was so scary, man. Oh. Collapsing on court. That story, when I first saw that video the first time, man, I'm telling you, like, it was one of the scariest things that you ever see. Like, when I say he just dropped, yo, he just dropped. He was out, bro. My man was out. Like, that was wild. Like, let's watch that video again, man. Like you can see that again, yo. Let me see it from this view, though. That was bad, bro. Like, it was so bad. I was so scared for that kid, man. I was so scared for that kid. I was like, oh my God, no. I was like, no, don't die, man. Don't die. Like, I thought it was going to be like a death on court, man.
Tonight, but this afternoon, Florida star basketball player Keontae Johnson collapsed early in the game against Florida State. The Gators were coming out of a timeout. The cameras cut away from the court. And broadcasters on the ESPNU game said that Johnson had collapsed. He was taken to the locker room. The latest reports have Johnson in critical but stable condition at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. And his coach Mike White on Twitter.
Yo, that was really scary, and I'm so glad that he's up and talking now. You know, because that was so scary, man. You know, a lot of these kids, man, we found out that these kids are having more and more health problems now, man, and maybe their bodies aren't always meant to do all this bunch of professional sports, man. You know, and I'm really hopeful that he can return back to the court. But whatever happened to make him collapse like that, man, I don't know if that kid should be playing basketball like that, man. Because next time that he falls out, he might die. You know, and I don't want to see that. You know, I don't want to see that. So let's go here to news break. All right. So news break is going to be some interesting things. So Biden says he received coronavirus vaccination publicly soon. You know, that is interesting. See, that's what I've been asking for. I said, white folk, I don't mind taking the goddamn virus. I just want you to take the freaking vaccine. You take it first. Biden says he will publicly take COVID vaccine. Okay. I'm gonna definitely clip this out and make this a separate video. Now let's go back here. According to Newsbreak and the Associated Press, according to Newsbreak and the AFP, Biden says he will receive coronavirus vaccination publicly soon. This is written by Drew Engerer. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden says Tuesday that he will receive a coronavirus vaccination publicly, and that top infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci has recommended it be "quote unquote" sooner than later. Biden says, "I want to make sure we do it by the numbers, and when I do it, you'll have notice, and we'll do it publicly." Biden told reporters before leaving for Georgia to campaign for 2 Democratic Senate candidates. Biden says that Dr. Fauci recommends I get the vaccine sooner than later, the 78-year-old president-elect said. More than 300,000 people have died from COVID-19 in the U.S., and a winter surge is continuing across much of the country. The U.S. kicked off a mass vaccination drive on Monday, and the authorities hope to immunize 20 million people this month, with healthcare workers and long-term care residents at the front of the line. Authorities want to reach the rest of the population by summer, but much will depend on vaccine confidence. Experts estimate more than 70% of people will need to be vaccinated to stem the outbreak. You know, I think that it's very good. It's very, very great that Joe Biden is going to do it publicly. I would like to see him see the needle go in him into his arm and him get the vegan virus. Not the virus, but the vaccine. So I think that the fact that Joe Biden is willing to do it publicly, I like that. So if anything goes wrong, he'll be the first to get it, right? Put your money where your mouth is. All right. So let's go here. All right. So we're going to go over to politics. Congress warms to possible COVID stimulus bill. Warms to it. This is from the Political by Burgess Everett and Heather Cagle. So they warms to possible COVID stimulus deal. To possible stimulus deal. What the fuck do you mean possible? You've only given people $1,200 so far, so I'm not sure what they mean by possible deal. But let's go through this article here. This is written by the Political. It was updated on yesterday on December the 12th. No, on December the 14th. A bipartisan group of senators finally hit pay dirt in its long-running coronavirus relief negotiations, and it may provide a pathway to a deal that has eluded Congress for months. Roughly a dozen centrist senators presented their much-anticipated product on Monday afternoon in 2 pieces: a $748 billion package boosting education, vaccine, transportation, and other funding, and a more controversial $160 billion add-on to a $160 billion add-on of state and local funding, married with a short-term liability shield for employers. And though it's still not clear what exactly Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Speaker Nancy Pelosi will do with it, the $748 billion piece was fairly warmly received by Republicans on Monday, and Democrats did not immediately dismiss it. Yeah, because it's $748 billion where they can waste some money and pocket some of that money and do their backroom deals. I guarantee you the vast majority of that money will not go to Americans. But let's move on here. The Senate Majority Whip, John Thune, said, it's getting close. It includes a lot of things in our package, and numbers-wise, it's less than what it was last week. It's trending in the right direction, he said. And then you have Senator Patty Murray from a Democrat from Washington, and also the number 3 Democratic leader saying, words matter, and I want to see what's in it. You know what? If you actually mean that, Miss Murray, then good on you. But you're from Washington State, so I don't think you necessarily mean that. Anyways, she, like other Democrats, is still pushing for the money for states and cities and wants to see precisely how vaccine dollars are spent in the legislation, among other provisions. Notably, Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin appeared at a press conference announcing the legislation, suggesting some buy-in from leadership. He said that weeks have passed, hours and hours of Zoom calls, and we've reached this point. It feels good. It feels like legislating. It feels like why we were elected, he said. McConnell has already called for dropping the liability shield and local spending, the two most contentious issues, which suggests the first piece offers Congress a framework for finishing out the lame duck with the stimulus success after months of deadlock. The second part is more controversial, even among moderate negotiators. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia, has signed off on it, but other Democrats are more reluctant, according to sources familiar with the talks. Congressional leaders are also holding their own coronavirus talks and will need to see the legislative text of the group's work before weighing in publicly. Congress has not approved a new significant round of aid since April, and in recent weeks, the pandemic has spiked across the U.S., further hobbling the economy. Leaders of the group said it's now up to McConnell and Pelosi to decide what can pass both chambers of Congress as lawmakers scramble to wrap up the legislative session by Friday. Senator Lisa Murkowski, the Republican from Alaska, said, "What we've been able to do is give to leadership as they've moving through in these final days a ready-made negotiated product. You've got your gift, take it." Interesting. I like the way she worded that. You know, we have went through the effort of giving you, you know, of all the arguments, of all the fussing, of all the freaking you know, the stalling, the negotiating. We've done all that. We're giving this to you. Now pass something. You know, I like the way that she thinks. You know, in the one thing about Alaskans in general, they're very direct. You know, when you come from that particular type of environment, you don't have a choice but to be very, very direct, because you either just be direct or you're gonna die. So, but the group's presentation gets at the heart of the difficulties congressional leaders face in the coming days. Even the bipartisan coalition in the end could not find a way to marry the more controversial local funding and liability discussions with a broader relief deal, leaving it up to party leaders who have been in a stalemate over those issues. Senator John Corvin, a Republican from Texas, said the best way to do that at this late date is to negotiate a four corners agreement. My understanding is they are looking at what the bipartisan group has come up with, and a lot of it is good stuff for potential inclusion in the year-end spending bill. Corbyn called the bipartisan proposal a quote-unquote positive influence on the ultimate deal, adding he'd be quote shocked end quote if the congressional leaders didn't release text of a final deal by Wednesday. McConnell and Pelosi have both said they want to attach a stimulus deal to the 1.4 trillion omnibus measure Congress that has to pass by Friday in order to keep the government open. So it's got to pass by Friday. Like this, like there's no negotiations there in terms of like keeping the government open. They have to pass a budget by Friday, or else the government's going to shut down. And the government shutting down during a pandemic, that's not good, right? All right, so let's move on here. Corin said, we've got to vote on this thing by Friday and get out of here. McConnell has not commented directly on the bipartisan proposal, though it does meet his general framework after he relented on previous demands for liability reform in any new stimulus measure. He did tout some provisions included in the compromise, including small business funding and money for vaccine distributions. McConnell said on Monday afternoon, "I can speak for the Republican side. We want to make a law to agree where we can, where we want to make a law to agree where we can and help people who need." So basically, it's being held up by a bunch of arguments. I want to give you guys that argument again. This is why I read from different sources, because I want you guys to see this kind of stuff. Congress is still playing politics with stimulus relief. There you go. That's from Newsbreak. I want you guys to see that stuff so that you can see how your leaders are treating you. I want you to see how your leaders are abusing you, how they're taking your money, and then they are turning around and they're pretending like they can't help you, and they want to play politics with this stuff. They're passing $1 trillion budgets, but if the $1 trillion budgets doesn't help the American people at this point, then maybe the government needs to figure shut down. Because if you're not going to help the American people, then what good are you anyways? But anyways, guys, that is something that I thought was interesting. Now we're gonna go and go over to CNN again. I saw something very, very interesting on the front page there. I have a tab open for CNN, but I just want to open up a new tab. I want you guys to see this. All right, this is a critical day for stimulus talks because I want you guys to see the exact same type of article from a different source. All right, stimulus negotiations. A deal is within reach. Can Hill leaders finally strike one? Okay, this is from CNN. It's now time for congressional leaders to finally show their cards and make some critical decisions. With government funding running out Friday night, lawmakers have to release a massive $1.4 trillion package as soon as Tuesday if it has any chance of passing Congress and keeping agencies from shutting down by the weekend. That means Americans could learn Tuesday whether leaders on Capitol Hill have agreed to provide desperately needed relief since they want to add the COVID-19 provisions onto the omnibus spending package. Or struggling Americans could once again be disappointed if there's no agreement and they're forced to wait even longer as lawmakers continue to haggle.
People were afraid I was contagious.
All right, so House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has invited Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. God, these freaking pop-ups, man. And House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to her office for a meeting on COVID and government funding. The meeting is scheduled to occur at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which should have been about roughly an hour and 30 minutes ago. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin will join the meeting by phone, according to a spokesperson for Pelosi. Leaders may have a bit more time to finalize a COVID deal under the procedure that the leaders are now looking at. According to two sources, McConnell told GOP senators on a call that the COVID deal could play out through the legislative process as follows. The House will introduce a $1.4 trillion government funding package as soon as later Tuesday, and at the House Rules and at the House Rules Committee, they would offer an amendment of the COVID relief bill. It's unclear when rules would meet, but it would be before Friday. Then the full package will be sent to the floor. That means the final legislative language on the COVID deal could wait to be unveiled until closer to the Rules Committee meeting, which would allow for more time to negotiate. If congressional leaders remain at an impasse, Congress may have to pass yet another short-term stopgap resolution to give them more time to find an agreement. It's clear that virtually everyone in Washington that a deal is within reach that includes several key provisions: an extension on jobless benefits, money for vaccine distribution, funds for schools, small business loans, among a handful of other issues. But congressional leaders still need to sign off on such a proposal. As late as Monday night, there was still no final consensus with familiar sticking points. Democrats want state and local money to help ensure workers who provide vital services are not laid off. Republicans believe much of the money will be wasted, and the GOP lawmakers who are open to more state and local aid say that there also need to be lawsuit protections for businesses and other entities. But Democrats argue that the GOP proposals on that idea go too far. I mean, how about this? Can you do both? Just get it done. Sources said that Pelosi, as of Monday night, was still pushing for local and state funding aid. But there were clear signs that Democrats were likely to abandon that push, something that could lead to a long-awaited deal. McConnell said on the floor Monday, "It's about time to get this done." Democrats agree with the sentiment. Chuck Schumer said, "This week the Senate returns with precious little time left to finish important matters of business, but can they get there?" That is a very good point. Let's go back here. I'm going to drop that link in the chat for you guys.